I'm an estranged father. This is a story about how Australia attempts to reverse engineer DV incidents in Australia. This week I completed a 30-minute intake phone assessment with Relationships Australia to participate in a men's behaviour change program. I've been rejected previously from all my other attempts. This time around I've been on the waiting list since around September last year, when I informed that person on the phone that I was a serial rapist and I raped 3 to 4 women nightly and I wanted to do a course to stop the raping. This conversation allowed me to move to the next stage of the process, which occurred this week. When the intake began, the intake person consented to having our conversation recorded. This intake would last approximately 30 minutes. The intake person then asked me if I knew anything about the program, and I told him that it was my understanding that the program was being used to prevent kids from having fathers. The intake person said, "It sounds like you are one of those fathers, and maybe it feels very unfair that your children are missing out on seeing you." I said, "I wouldn't put it that way." I said, "I would say that their human right to have a family is being prevented because they were born in Australia." He then said, "And you have kind of connected that occurring to this program. Is that right?" I stated that I have not connected it. I said the court order that was made, which I consented to. I said I was happy to do the course that I have been rejected from previously. I stated that my experience with this course is that court orders are made about this course, and it is put in front of fathers to prevent them from raising their kids. I said that is my understanding of this course. The person on the intake phone call then stated, "Yep, okay, so because there is a court order in place and you are saying that you have been rejected, and so it's like the program is kind of part of the reason you're not getting to see your children. Is that right?" I stated that even if I did the course, it would have no impact on me seeing my kids in this country. I said, I understand that my children's right aren't of any value. Their right to have a family. I said that family court orders are of no significance at all in this country. I said you can just make up what the orders say. I reiterated again that completing this course will not change my situation at all with regards to seeing my kids. I said I am happy to do the course as I always was and have been willing to do. I said this program should not be used as a form of confession if I do this program. I stated again that I was always happy to do this program. The person on the intake phone call stated that he was getting a bit confused. He said, "You were telling me you were happy to do the program, but what I'm hearing is frustration about this whole process. And kind of frustration that you are even being forced to do the program." I reiterated again that I was always willing to do the program. I said I was happy to do any course that I had to do. I said that I consented to doing the program on the first day of a trial which began in 2023. I said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, I've always been happy to. I said, I don't understand what you are trying to say now. The intake person stated that he noticed my tone about some frustration about it. But he said, that's okay. You have told me multiple times that you are happy to do this program. He then asked if I could tell him what it is about this program that I would be looking forward to doing. I said that I am looking forward to doing the program because it is one less hurdle I have to jump over to prove to the rest of Australia. Because it seems like whenever I talk about the relationship I have with my kids, everyone talks about the safety, like yourself today. I said, I could say that you are unsafe today, can't I? And I said, what would you say if I told you that you are presenting an unsafe situation over the phone to me today? I said, what would you say? He said, I'm sorry, but I just want to bring you back to the question of what it is about this course that you are looking forward to. I said, okay, I think I answered that. I said it would be one less hurdle to convince everyone in this country that I've done all I can to have a relationship with my kids. I said, do you understand when a court makes court orders, it isn't just that court that makes orders. Everyone in the country supports those orders that have been made. I said, do you understand that? The intake person said that he is not really following. The intake person said that it isn't the purpose of this phone call. I said that the answer to the question is one less hurdle for me to prove to my children that I've done everything I can to have a relationship with them and give them a good upbringing. I said that's why I want to do the course. I said, is that understood? I said, do you understand that answer? He said, yep. It sounds like it is about having one less hurdle and to demonstrate that you have done everything you can to have a relationship with them. He continued and said that he was curious if there was internal motivation in regards to your own behaviours and choices where you would like to change something about the way you behave. I said, I just want you to understand that I consented to doing this course. I said that there is no admission of guilt that I'm willing to offer here of anything that I've done. I said, if you feel that I've done something, I think you should charge me with that. The intake person said that maybe we got a bit ahead of ourselves. He said, I'll tell you more about the program and about what my role is. He said, as the program facilitator, I'm trained as a counsellor. I don't have the ability to charge people with anything or pass any judgment on people. That's not really my role. I just facilitate a program, and this program is called the Taking Responsibility Program. That's our name for the Men's Behaviour Change course here at Relationships Australia. So the program is for men who are ready to take accountability for their use of violence or abusive behaviour with their partners or family. So it's only for men who are at a stage where they are ready to take accountability. And so guess why I'm asking some of these questions today? To just try and find out if this program is suitable for you and your situation. And what you are telling me is, I'm trying to understand, does that sound like a program that's suitable for you? I responded and said, okay, I know that you are very rigid in terms of what your goals are here today. In terms, you want someone to get on the phone and say, his behaviour has been abusive. That seems what you're trying to get at here. Is that my understanding? The intake person said, the reason I am rigid is because I'm actually filling out a form. It's our intake form. And part of this phone conversation is that I am filling out answers to a form. And so if we stray off the course, then I'm not able to actually complete the intake today. And you might have to book in another one. And the other part of it is that I'm trying to work out if the program is suitable for you. And if it's suitable for you, not suitable for you, it makes a lot of the questions irrelevant. And we can kind of skip to the end and kind of maybe agree that this program isn't right for you. And that's fine. I said, okay, well, at the first initial phone conversation, I said, do you know when that happened? I said, it took place 3 to 4 months ago. He said, sorry, what are you asking us? I said, to get to this stage about 3 or 4 months ago, do you understand what I said to the other person I spoke to on the phone? He said, no. He said, okay. He goes, no, I don't. He asked if that was an intake phone call. I said, yeah, and then they said you were on the waiting list. He said, okay, yes. You have been on the waiting list for 3 to 4 months, and today is the intake phone call. I said, do you know you have waiting lists, or do you not know that? He said, yes, I'm aware. He said, so what you were asking, sorry, I said, do you understand that there was a phone call prior to today's intake? Prior to today's intake to get to you and to your form. He said, yeah, I guess what happens is people make inquiries. So say such as someone like yourself wants to do the program, there is an initial point of contact. I said, right, yep. He said, yeah, and from there, they will take a bunch of personal details, such as your phone number today that I called you on today. I said, yep. He said, and the next step is for a clinical intake. And then after today's clinical intake, there is another wait list, and you will then be invited to come in for a one-on-one appointment. And so that's the casework section of the program. So there's two parts to the program, the caseworker part, and then there's the group part, and they are equally important parts of our program. He continued. He said, and the entire program is focused on taking responsibility. And so in everyone's story, there are bits and pieces where you feel like maybe you had some level of control over. You made a choice in how you behaved, and all the context in the other parts of your story and what your partner did or didn't do are other parts that we choose not to focus on, those parts, because we are wanting to focus on the parts that you have some control over. Because we want you to empower yourself and to grow and to learn from the parts of your story where you had some amount of choice. And that's why the focus of this program. I said, okay. I said, I want to be clear. I was trying to tell you that the first phone call I had with the person a few months ago, I told her that I said, I want to do the course. I said, I've been rejected previously. I said, on the phone call, I said, look, I'm a serial rapist. And I said, I'm raping 3 to 4 women a night, and I want to do this course to stop that. I told the intake person that he could put that on his form to get me past this stage. There was a long pause, and the intake person said, okay, so I said, just to be clear, there is no AVO, there's never been one against me, and there is no incident of violence recorded against me. I said, I told you what I just told you, and I hope this course can resolve all those issues. The intake person said, well, I hear what you said, and on paper you said that you were raping 3 or 4 women a night, and you are a serial rapist. But what I'm hearing underneath what you are saying is what you have told me will be in the recording of this phone call for you to listen back to. And what I heard was that you said you want to do the program, not from any internal motivation, but to prove to other people that you are a safe person for your children to be around. And as you said, it's one less hurdle for you to move forward with a relationship with your children. But that's kind of an external motivator. And I really need to hear from you and the internal motivation for doing the program. And there might be some kind of goal you have to get out of doing it. I said, sorry, I'm confused. I just told you I'm a serial rapist. I'm raping 3 or 4 women a night, and I'm hoping this course, once I complete it, that behaviour will stop. I said, do you not agree with that? The intake person said, agree with what? I said that the course will stop that from occurring. The intake person said, look, this course tries its best, but any change is really up to the men. So it's very hard to know if after this course, whether you would continue raping or not. So I can't make a confident claim that after you do this program, it's going to stop any of these behaviours. You get out what you put in. So if you are resistant to change, but you sit through the program and kind of say what you need to say, but don't apply yourself, you're not really going to get any change out of it or any growth or learning from it. And in fact, it might negatively impact the other men that are in the program. So that's why we have a responsibility to evaluate if someone is ready for this kind of program. It's not just about what's best for you, it's what's best for the other men in the program. I said, I'm sorry, what's the decision you're making here? I said, I want to do the course to stop the raping, and I don't understand why I can't do the course. I said, are you preventing me from doing it? Because I don't know what the reasoning is here. He said, I'll explain it. So you were kind of asking for why I am preventing you from doing the program. And he continued and said, I want to give you the opportunity to answer these questions. And I'm being very clear that, yes, there needs to be something intrinsic, some motivation from within yourself, like some kind of desire to change from within you. I paused and said, yeah, as I said, I want to stop the graping. So is that not a strong desire? I continued and said, I've waited a few months for this program. I told the person on the phone call a few months ago. I've said it on the phone call with you now. I said, I'm really unsure. The intake person interrupted me and said, why do you, another thing I've noticed, is that after you answer these questions, you'll ask me a follow-up question. And often the question is about me. Like asking, why do I think it's okay? Is that not a good enough answer, and that kind of thing? My follow-up question right now to you, when you said that you want to stop the graping, and is that not a good enough motivator to do the program, my follow-up question is, why do you want to stop the graping? I said, I just want to make the world a better place, I think. The intake person said, okay, can you tell me a bit more about that? I said, I don't think people should be graped. He did some typing and said, okay. He then said, so how do you reconcile about people not wanting to be graped and you have been graping? I said, I guess I'm looking for techniques at this course that you offer. A serial grapist like myself that could stop people like me. You know, stop those behaviours and that urge that I have. The intake person said, okay, can I ask now, when you tell me that you are a serial rapist, are you being honest with me? I said, I've got to do the course, don't I? So I guess, you know, I've got to work within the rules you have given me here, and, you know, I just want to change. So the intake person said, if you don't feel like you have done anything wrong, but you feel like this program forces you to have to take accountability for something, are you kind of feeling like you are forced to make something up and say that just so you can do the program? I said, I think I'm being clear. I want to stop the graping and make the world a better place. And, you know, I think the course could really help me do that. The intake person said, are you kind of under the impression that this might work and that you will be invited to do the program if you take accountability for this in this way? I said, yeah, I mean, to do the course, you have to do that. So you have to list a behaviour. I said, I've listed a behaviour that I want to change. You know, otherwise I can't do the course, can I? I said, I mean, there's no AVO I can give you. You know, I've been asked that before. I said, you know, a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I was asked if an AVO, and I said, AVO was in place. I said, no. I was asked, has there ever been one? I said, no. I also said, there's been no incident of violence. And I just keep getting rejected. And a lot of people have faith in this course. They think it's preventing all sorts of things. And I think I'm being clear. You know, I'm not seeing my kids, and I've listed a men's behaviour issue that needs to be changed in Australia, and, you know, I'm trying to change that. The intake person asked how I think I would go in the program. I told him that I've never failed a course. I told him that I have a bachelor's degree in business. I said, I think I would be successful in the course. I said that I would be a leader in that course, and if I stood up in the classroom and said, you know, I'm a serial rapist and I want to stop the graping, I think I would win respect from my peers in that classroom. And people would pat me on the back and say, let's change. Let's get this course going. The intake person said, I guess what I'm hearing is there is a lot of frustration this entire process. That being rejected from this program, you feel like there's no AVO, and on one hand you're being told you have to do the program, and on the other hand you're being told you aren't suitable for the program, and you keep getting rejected from it. And it feels like some sort of game that is set up for you to lose. And you're trying to kind of maybe, I can just imagine that, being infuriated. I said, I'm kind of concerned about your use of your imagination and your willingness to believe those imaginative theories you have there, but I guess I can't answer your questions more straight than I already have at the moment. So I guess I'm sorry you feel that way. The intake person said, yeah, okay, well, I might just get to the other part of the intake. After a long pause, he said, so part of this program, at the point at which where a caseworker would have to occur, there would be a need to, so part of the program is that we are required to offer some support to current or former partners. And that would occur around the same time that you are doing one-on-one appointments. And so we ask that you share the name and contact information of current or former partners. Is that okay with you? I said, I have a couple of girlfriends and former partners. I'm just trying to understand which former partners you're looking at obtaining details of. I said, is the one I was in family court for 6 to 7 years, is that the mother of my kids? Is that the former partner you're looking for? The intake person said that this is a program for men who have taken accountability for using behaviours abusive or violent. So when I'm asking for contact details, I'm asking so they can receive an offer of support. I'm asking for the partners that you think might have been on the receiving end of those behaviours. He said, does that make sense? I paused and said, I guess you are looking for a victim. I said, are you saying that I'm a perpetrator and you are looking for a victim that I've perpetrated violence against? I said, is that what you were looking for? The intake person paused and said, I'm asking you if there is a partner that you feel might be relevant to why you're in this program and why you were being asked to do this program. I said, I'm a bit concerned about passing on former partners' details to you. If I have perpetrated violence against any former partner, I don't think they would want me passing on their details to you. I don't think they would even want me to have their details. So I'm just concerned that this could be a form of coercive control if I've asked for my former partner's details to be passed on to you. I mean, that would be a form of coercive control, wouldn't it? Or is it not? The intake person said, so it's not a breach of an AVO for us to reach out to a partner, even if there is a no contact order. That's because we are kind of separate organisation. And so I don't think I guess what you are asking is if us reaching out would be an extension of your use of coercive control. I said, no, I'm not saying it would be an extension. I'm saying it would be a breach of her trust if she didn't want to be talking with me. And I don't have a number or anything. Maybe I still do. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not going to reach out to her. I think if there was a victim, I don't think it is right for them to hear from a perp. Would you agree? He said, yeah, I think I might have miscommunicated. He said, we wouldn't be asking you to reach out to her. You would be handing on her contact details to us if you knew them, so that we could reach out to her, and not on your behalf. So we could offer some kind of counsellor or social worker to offer some mental health support for that person. And then it's completely up to that person to say yes or no. So plenty of women say no thanks, and that's the end of that. But it's a part of this program which is standard across Australia. That is a requirement of this program. I said, I'm not in contact with any former partners. I said, I wish I could help you out there. I don't have that though. I apologise for that. He said, that's all right. He then thanked me for the phone call today and wished me well for the rest of the day. I asked if I had gone through and asked what happens now. The intake person said he would need to talk to a supervisor about this and he will let me know the outcome. I said, awesome, have a good night then. The intake phone call lasted for almost exactly 30 minutes and I am yet to hear back from Relationships Australia after almost a week.
It's a reminder, if we needed it, that it is so important that we continue to work as a society to eliminate violence against women. One of the most important things we need to do is believe women when they tell us that their lives are at risk, that their safety is in danger. We've got to stop the default of believing blokes because they seem like they're a good bloke. Nothing to see here. We need to understand when a woman tells us that her safety is at risk, she is the expert in her own safety.
If you want real solutions, you've got to go to the source of the problem, and that's the perpetrators that's causing the harm. We work with men 18 and over, doing the wraparound support with the partners and the children as well. So to see these men to want to change their behaviour but also take accountability for their actions, they're really seeing a massive difference. Obviously, we learn a lot about in schools the IQ, but now these men are learning about the emotional quotient to understand how the brain works. So these guys are now identifying their triggers. It's a massive thing for us to have more of them coming through. But my biggest worry for us is that, are we going to be funded up?